You believed that showing mercy was strength. You convinced yourself that ignoring their weaknesses made you noble, that your restraint would somehow earn their respect, their loyalty, their protection. But while you practiced virtue like a monk in meditation, they were studying you like a predator studies prey. They catalogued every crack in your armor, every moment of hesitation, every tender spot where the right pressure could break you completely. Tonight, the comfortable illusions die. Tonight, you discover why Machiavelli warned that the merciful prince becomes prey to those who study weakness like wolves, study blood trails. Your enemies, and yes, they are your enemies, even when they smile at you, are already weaponizing what you refuse to see. They have turned your compassion into a blade pointed at your own throat. You think you're playing a game of mutual respect, but they're playing a game of conquest. You think you're building bridges, but they're laying traps. You think your goodness will inspire their goodness, but they see your goodness as exploitable weakness, a soft spot where they can insert the knife of their ambition. Every conversation you've had, every moment of vulnerability you've shared, every time you've shown them where you hurt, they've been taking notes, mental notes, strategic notes, notes they will use when the time comes to destroy you, and the time always comes. Because in the architecture of human relationships, there are only two positions, the one who strikes first and the one who bleeds. You've been living under the dangerous delusion that refusing to see others' weaknesses somehow makes you immune to their use of yours. But weakness unused is not virtue. It's negligence. It's a loaded gun you refuse to acknowledge, while they're already aiming theirs at your head. The moment you decided to be good instead of strategic, you volunteered for victimhood in a world that rewards only the ruthless. This is not cynicism speaking. This is survival. This is not about becoming evil. This is about refusing to remain prey. Because while you've been sleeping peacefully in your moral certainty, they've been awake, planning, preparing, positioning themselves for the moment when your destruction serves their advancement. That moment is closer than you think. You think they're your allies, your friends, your loyal companions. You see their smiles and interpret kindness. You hear their laughter and assume genuine connection. But behind those carefully crafted expressions, they are archaeologists of your destruction, methodically cataloging every fear, every insecurity, every moment when your voice trembled or your confidence cracked like thin ice under pressure. They remember everything. The joke that made you flinch, the topic that made you abruptly change the subject, the name that made your jaw tighten with old pain you thought you'd hidden, the compliment you deflected too quickly, revealing the wound beneath, the criticism you absorbed too deeply, showing them exactly where your armor is thinnest. While you see these moments as natural human interaction, they see intelligence gathering for a war you don't even know is coming. This is not paranoia. This is pattern recognition. Every person who has ever destroyed you showed you who they were long before the betrayal. They revealed their nature through their relationship with others' weaknesses, their comfort with exploitation when it served their interests, their ability to smile while calculating exactly how much pressure it would take to break you. You've been unconsciously training them in your destruction. Every time you've shared your struggles, you've handed them ammunition. Every time you've admitted your fears, you've drawn them a map to your vulnerabilities. Every time you've shown them your soft spots, you've painted targets on your own back. They've been studying you like a master locksmith studies a safe, learning exactly which combination of pressures will make you open. The most dangerous people in your life are not your obvious enemies. They're the ones who've convinced you they're not enemies at all. They're the collectors, the catalogers, the patient predators who understand that information is power and your weaknesses are information. They listen to your confessions, not with compassion but with calculation. They comfort your pain not to heal it, but to understand exactly how to recreate it when needed. You've been living in a world where you think emotional intelligence means understanding feelings, but they understand that emotional intelligence means understanding which feelings can be weaponized. You think vulnerability creates connection, but they know vulnerability creates opportunity. You think sharing your struggles builds trust, but they know sharing your struggles builds their arsenal. Every weakness you've revealed has been filed away in their mental database, cross-referenced with your triggers, indexed by potential usefulness. They know which buttons to push to make you doubt yourself, which fears to activate to make you compliant, which insecurities to exploit to make you grateful for their manipulation. You've been their willing teacher in the curriculum of your own undoing. This is the brutal arithmetic of human relationships. Information flows from the naive to the calculating, from the trusting to the strategic, from the prey to the predator. You've been bleeding information while they've been hoarding weapons. The time has come to stop being their research subject and start becoming their researcher. There was a moment, perhaps multiple moments, when you saw their weakness laid bare before you like an open wound. You witnessed their mask slip, their confidence crack, their true nature peek through the carefully constructed facade. You convinced yourself that mercy was strength, that taking the higher road would somehow protect you from their eventual betrayal. You told yourself that exploiting their vulnerability would make you just like them, that your nobility would be rewarded with their gratitude, that your restraint would earn their respect. That hesitation was your death sentence, signed in the ink of your own misguided virtue. They felt your restraint, like a predator feels prey deciding not to run. In that moment of your mercy, they marked you for destruction, because they understood what you refused to accept, that in the ecosystem of human power, hesitation is not virtue, it's suicide. When you have the opportunity to neutralize a threat, and you choose compassion instead, you're not choosing goodness, you're choosing eventual victimhood. Machiavelli knew that the prince who cannot kill when killing is necessary will be killed by those who have no such limitations. Your enemies have no such limitations. They will not hesitate when they hold the blade to your throat. They will not choose mercy when your destruction serves their purposes. They will not take the higher road when the lower road leads to your elimination. Every moment you've chosen restraint over strategy, you've sent them a message that you can be counted on to limit yourself when they have no intention of limiting themselves. Every time you've pulled back from delivering the decisive blow, you've taught them that you're not a serious threat, that you can be manipulated through appeals to your conscience, that your goodness can be weaponized against your own interests. The fatal hesitation is always the same. You see the opportunity to destroy your enemy, and instead of taking it, you imagine a world where mercy creates mutual respect, where restraint inspires restraint, where your goodness somehow transforms their nature. But transformation is not how predators work. They don't become less dangerous because you refuse to be dangerous. They become more dangerous because they know you won't defend yourself effectively. Your hesitation has been their education in your exploitability. Every time you've chosen not to press the advantage, you've shown them exactly how much pressure they can apply before you finally fight back. Every time you've chosen forgiveness over retaliation, you've demonstrated that your threats are empty, your boundaries are suggestions, your anger is temporary and manageable. They study your patterns of restraint, like a general studies the enemy's defensive positions. They know exactly how far they can push before you push back, exactly how much they can take before you say stop, exactly how much damage they can do before you finally retaliate. And they've calculated that your eventual retaliation will be too little, too late, too constrained by the same moral limitations that prevented you from acting when action would have mattered. The moment has passed when mercy could have been strength. Now, mercy is simply weakness, masquerading as virtue. The time for hesitation has ended. The time for surgical precision has begun. Because while you've been practicing restraint, they've been practicing destruction, and they're much better at their craft than you are at yours. Don't wait for permission to protect yourself. Don't wait for them to show mercy first. Don't wait for the perfect moral justification. Cut now. Strike now. End the threat, now, while you still can, because the next moment of hesitation might be your last. Every person carries within them a secret terror, a core weakness that when exposed reduces them to the frightened child they once were. These fault lines run through the human psyche like cracks in a foundation, invisible until pressure is applied, but catastrophic when they finally give way. You have been blind to these vulnerabilities while they map yours with surgical precision. But you've been too busy protecting your own vulnerabilities to weaponize theirs, too concerned with being good to be effective, too focused on your own wounds to study the wounds that could neutralize your enemies. This blindness will cost you everything, because while you've been playing defense, they've been perfecting their offense using the detailed intelligence they've gathered about your every weakness. Look closer. The person who dominates every conversation is terrified of silence, because silence forces them to confront the emptiness inside. The one who constantly criticizes others is desperate to deflect attention from their own failures. The one who never admits fault is paralyzed by the fear that any acknowledgement of imperfection will confirm what they secretly believe about themselves, that they are fundamentally inadequate. Their need to be seen as intelligent is a weapon you can turn against them by creating situations where their ignorance becomes undeniable. Their terror of appearing weak becomes your leverage when you force them into positions where strength is required and they have none to offer. Their desperate hunger for respect becomes your tool when you make that respect conditional on behaviors that serve your interests rather than theirs. Every human being is imprisoned by their own psychology, trapped by patterns they cannot see, controlled by fears they cannot name. These invisible chains become visible to those who learn to look with predator's eyes rather than prey's hope. The person who needs constant validation can be controlled by withholding it. The one who fears abandonment can be managed through strategic withdrawal. The one who craves status can be manipulated by threatening their position. You've been living in their cage, allowing their weaknesses to remain weapons they use against you instead of weapons you use against them. They project their insecurities onto you, and you absorb them. They transfer their fears to you, and you carry them. They dump their inadequacies on you, and you accept them as your own. This psychological colonization has been their strategy from the beginning, to make you the container for everything they cannot bear about themselves. But weakness, once identified, becomes a tool of immense power if you're brave enough to wield it. Their desperate need to be right becomes your opportunity to let them be wrong in ways that destroy their credibility. Their compulsive need to control becomes your chance to create chaos they cannot manage. Their terror of exposure becomes your weapon when you position them where their masks must come off. The mirror of vulnerability reflects both ways. They can see your weaknesses because you've shown them, but you can see theirs because they cannot help but reveal them. Every overreaction shows you what hurts them. Every defensive response shows you what threatens them. Every aggressive attack shows you what they're trying to protect. You've been focusing on the wrong reflection. Stop staring at your own vulnerabilities and start studying theirs, because the person who understands weakness truly understands it, possesses the key to every human cage. And right now you're sitting in a cage while holding the key to theirs. The most dangerous people in your life are already 3 moves ahead. They're not reacting to your current behavior. They're anticipating your future responses based on the psychological profile they've been building since the moment they met you. They know how you'll respond to pressure because they've applied it before and measured your breaking point. They know how you'll react to betrayal because they've betrayed you in small ways and catalogued your patterns of forgiveness. But weakness, once identified, becomes a tool of immense power if you're brave enough to wield it before they wield yours. This is not about becoming evil. This is about becoming strategic. This is not about abandoning morality. This is about understanding that morality without power is just sophisticated slavery to those who have no moral limitations whatsoever. The preemptive strike is not aggression. It's intelligence applied to survival. When you identify a threat, you don't wait for it to become actualized. You don't hope it will resolve itself through the magic of positive thinking. You don't assume that your goodness will somehow neutralize their badness. You strike first, precisely, devastatingly, before they have the opportunity to use your hesitation against you. This means identifying their pressure points before they identify yours. This means understanding their fears before they weaponize yours. This means mapping their vulnerabilities before they exploit yours. The person who needs constant validation can be destroyed by strategic indifference. The one who craves control can be neutralized by strategic chaos. The one who depends on their reputation can be eliminated by strategic exposure. Watch for the signs when they start testing your boundaries more aggressively, when they begin isolating you from your support systems, when they increase their intelligence gathering about your vulnerabilities, when they start positioning themselves to benefit from your downfall. These are not random behaviors, they're strategic preparations for your destruction. The preemptive strike must be surgical. It cannot be emotional. It cannot be personal. It must be clinical, precise, devastating, and final. Half measures will only teach them to be more careful in their approach to destroying you. Warnings will only give them time to prepare better defenses. Mercy will only confirm their assessment that you're too weak to be a real threat. Identify their greatest fear and create a situation where they must confront it. Discover their deepest insecurity and arrange circumstances where it becomes undeniably visible. Find their most carefully guarded secret and position yourself to expose it if they threaten you. This is not cruelty. This is preparation for survival in an environment where others are preparing for your elimination. The preemptive strike is about changing the dynamic from reactive to proactive, from defensive to offensive, from prey to predator. Because while you've been hoping for peace, they've been preparing for war, and in war, the side that strikes first with precision and commitment is the side that survives. Don't wait for them to make the first move. They already have. Don't wait for permission to defend yourself. They're not waiting for permission to destroy you. Don't count on their mercy. They're not counting on yours. Strike before the blade falls, because once it falls, it will be too late to strike back. Every human being is imprisoned by their own psychology, trapped by patterns they cannot see, controlled by fears they cannot name, manipulated by needs they cannot acknowledge. These invisible chains become visible to those who learn to see the architecture of human weakness, the blueprint that governs every decision, every reaction, every vulnerable moment where pressure can be applied with devastating precision. Their need to be seen as intelligent is not a personality trait. It's an exploitable vulnerability that can be used to guide their behavior like a puppeteer guides strings, create situations where their ignorance becomes obvious, and they will do anything to avoid that exposure, including destroying themselves to maintain the illusion of competence. Their terror of appearing weak is not character. It's a lever you can pull to make them overcompensate in ways that reveal their actual weakness. Their desperate hunger for respect is not admirable ambition. It's a psychological dependency that can be manipulated by making that respect conditional on behaviors that serve your interests rather than theirs. Make them perform for your approval, and they will dance to your rhythm while believing they are leading. Withhold validation strategically, and they will exhaust themselves trying to earn what you will never freely give. You've been living in their cage, but every cage has a blueprint, and every blueprint reveals the points of structural failure. The person who dominates every conversation has created a prison of constant performance, where silence becomes torture. Create strategic silence, and they will fill it with revelations they never intended to share. The one who never admits fault has built their identity on infallibility, making any proof of error catastrophically destabilizing. Study the patterns. They reveal themselves through their overreactions. What makes them defensively aggressive tells you what terrifies them. What makes them change the subject tells you what they're hiding. What makes them attack others tells you what they cannot bear to acknowledge about themselves. Every defensive response is a map to their vulnerabilities. Their relationships reveal the architecture of their weakness better than their words ever could. How they treat those who cannot benefit them shows you their true nature. How they respond to others' success reveals their insecurities. How they handle others' failures shows you their capacity for exploitation. These patterns will predict exactly how they will treat you when treating you badly serves their interests. The architecture of destruction is built from their own materials. Use their need for control to create chaos they cannot manage. Use their fear of abandonment to make them cling to relationships that drain them. Use their desire for status to trap them in competitions they cannot win. Use their need to be right to let them be catastrophically wrong in public ways. Every weakness they've tried to hide becomes a structural support for their downfall. Once you understand how to apply pressure precisely, the insecurity they mask with arrogance becomes your lever. When you force them into situations requiring genuine confidence they don't possess, the cowardice they hide behind aggression becomes your weapon when you create circumstances demanding real courage. But the most sophisticated destruction is self-destruction. Create the conditions where their own weaknesses become the tools of their undoing. Let their pride destroy their relationships. Let their greed corrupt their judgment. Let their fear make them so defensive that they attack everyone who could help them. You don't need to destroy them. You need to architect the circumstances where they destroy themselves. This is not about becoming cruel. It's about becoming strategic. This is not about seeking revenge. It's about preventing your own destruction by ensuring that those who would destroy you lack the capacity to do so. The cage you build for them is constructed from their own psychological materials, powered by their own energy, maintained by their own choices. The betrayal that shattered your world was not a deviation from their character. It was the inevitable expression of it, as predictable as gravity, as certain as death, as unavoidable as the sunrise that follows the darkest night. Every person who has ever destroyed you gave you advance warning through their treatment of others, their relationship with truth, their comfort with deception when it served their interests. But you chose blindness over recognition, hope over pattern analysis, faith over strategic preparation. You believed you were different. You convinced yourself that your loyalty would somehow transform their nature, that your goodness would inspire theirs, that your dedication would earn their protection. This delusion is why you suffer while they prosper, why you bleed while they collect the benefits of your wounds, why you remain shocked by betrayals that were always inevitable. The psychology of betrayal is not complex. It's brutally simple. People betray when betrayal serves their interests better than loyalty. They discard when discarding advances their position more than maintaining the relationship. They destroy when destruction benefits them more than preservation. Your value to them was always conditional, transactional, temporary. The moment that transaction stopped serving them, your elimination became not just possible but necessary. Study their history. Every person they've betrayed thought they were special, thought they were different, thought their relationship was unique. Every victim believed their loyalty would be reciprocated, their sacrifice would be remembered, their dedication would be rewarded. Every destroyed person convinced themselves that the pattern they witnessed in others would somehow skip them. But patterns don't skip. They expand, they evolve, they perfect themselves through repetition. The person who betrayed their last friend was practicing for betraying you. The one who destroyed their previous partner was developing the skills they would eventually use against you. The one who exploited their former ally was refining the techniques they would deploy when your usefulness expired. Betrayal is not emotional, it's strategic. They don't betray you because they hate you. They betray you because betraying you serves their advancement better than protecting you. The decision is not personal. It's mathematical. When the cost of maintaining loyalty exceeds the benefit, loyalty becomes expendable. When the advantage of betrayal outweighs the risk, betrayal becomes inevitable. You were never their friend. You were their resource. You were never their ally. You were their tool. You were never their confidant. You were their intelligence source about your own vulnerabilities. Every moment of apparent closeness was actually reconnaissance. Every shared secret was actually ammunition gathering. Every expression of care was actually investment in future exploitation. The most dangerous betrayers are not the obvious ones. They're the ones who convince you they're incapable of betrayal. They build their deception on your need to believe in goodness, your desire to trust, your hope that loyalty will be reciprocated. They use your own values against you, turning your strengths into their weapons, your virtues into your vulnerabilities. Betrayal was always coming because it was always planned, not planned in the sense of a specific date or method, but planned in the sense that they always knew loyalty to you was conditional on you serving their interests. The moment you stopped being useful, or became inconvenient, or threatened their advancement, your destruction became not just acceptable but necessary. This is not cynicism. This is pattern recognition. This is not bitterness. This is strategic intelligence. Understanding the psychology of inevitable betrayal doesn't make you cruel. It makes you prepared. It doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you realistic about the mathematics of human self-interest. They were always going to betray you, because betrayal was always their nature. Your loyalty never had the power to change that nature. It only had the power to blind you to it. The betrayal that destroyed you was not the failure of your goodness. It was the success of their strategy. And that strategy is already being deployed against your replacement. Stop being surprised by the inevitable. Start preparing for what you can predict, because the next betrayal is coming, and this time you can be ready. There comes a moment in every person's life when they must choose between being loved and being respected, between maintaining the comfortable illusion of mutual goodness and accepting the darker truth that survival requires strategic ruthlessness. You have reached that moment. The choice you make now will determine whether you continue as prey or transform into predator. Those who have weaponized your weaknesses count on your continued blindness to theirs. They depend on your persistent belief that honor and mercy will somehow protect you from their calculated cruelty. They bank on your refusal to see that while you've been playing by rules of fairness, they've been playing by rules of conquest. This asymmetry has been your destruction and their advantage. But the student of power understands that the only defense against weaponized weakness is to weaponize weakness first, better, and without the hesitation that marks the victim. This is not about becoming them. It's about becoming immune to them. This is not about abandoning your values. It's about protecting your values through strategic strength rather than naive vulnerability. The final lesson is surgical in its precision. Identify their greatest fear and become it. If they fear irrelevance, become the person who makes them irrelevant. If they fear exposure, become the one who exposes them. If they fear abandonment, become the one who abandons them first and most completely. If they fear failure, become the architect of their failure. But this must be done with clinical detachment, not emotional vengeance. Emotion clouds judgment and creates exploitable patterns. They will try to provoke you into emotional responses because emotional responses are predictable, manageable, ultimately self-defeating. Stay cold, stay calculating, stay strategically focused on outcomes rather than feelings. This does not mean becoming evil. It means becoming effective. Evil acts without principle for selfish gain. Effectiveness acts with principle for strategic protection. The difference is crucial. You're not seeking to harm for pleasure. You're seeking to neutralize threats for survival. You're not becoming cruel for sport. You're becoming precise for security. The weak study your strengths to find ways around them. The wise study their weaknesses to ensure there is no escape from the consequences of threatening you. This shift from defensive to offensive thinking changes everything about how others perceive and treat you. When people understand that attacking you will result in their own destruction, they stop attacking you. The choice is binary, predator or prey. There is no middle ground in the ecology of human power. There is no neutral position in the war for survival and advancement. You are either the one who identifies and exploits weakness, or you are the one whose weakness is identified and exploited. You are either the hunter or the hunted. Become the storm they fear, not through random destruction, but through precise application of their own weaknesses against them. Let them teach you how to destroy them through their own patterns, their own fears, their own psychological vulnerabilities. Use their weapons against them with greater skill than they used yours against you. You are no longer the naive soul who believed that refusing to see others' weaknesses would somehow make you invulnerable to their use of yours. That person died the moment you understood the true nature of the game you've been playing, the moment you realized that while you've been practicing virtue, others have been practicing warfare. The scales have fallen from your eyes, and you see now that every relationship is a battlefield, every friendship a potential betrayal, every act of mercy a possible invitation to your own destruction. This is not cynicism. This is clarity. This is not paranoia. It's pattern recognition. This is not becoming evil. This is refusing to remain a victim in a world designed to victimize the virtuous. The comfortable illusions have shattered like glass against the rock of reality. The belief that goodness would be rewarded, that loyalty would be reciprocated, that mercy would inspire mercy. These were not truths but sophisticated forms of social control designed to keep the naturally powerful from discovering their capacity for strategic dominance. You understand now that the most dangerous people are not the obviously cruel. They're the ones who convinced you that cruelty was beneath you while they perfected it as an art form. They weaponized your virtue against you, turned your strengths into vulnerabilities, used your values as tools for your own manipulation. But that dynamic has ended. The transformation is complete. Where once you saw potential allies, you now see potential threats to be assessed, managed, or neutralized. Where once you offered trust, you now offer strategic engagement based on mutual benefit and clearly defined consequences. Where once you hoped for reciprocity, you now plan for exploitation and prepare accordingly. This is not bitterness, it's strategic intelligence. You don't hate them for being what they are any more than you hate a snake for having fangs, but you no longer pretend that understanding their nature makes you safe from it. You no longer believe that your goodness will somehow transform their predatory instincts into benevolent ones. The weak study your strengths to find ways around them. The wise study their weaknesses to ensure there is no escape from the consequences of threatening you. You have become wise. You have learned to see weakness not as something to protect in others, but as something to understand, catalog, and deploy when your survival requires it. Every person who has ever betrayed you, exploited you, or destroyed you has unknowingly prepared you for this moment, the moment when you stop being the victim of their psychological warfare and start being the master of it. Their cruelty was your education. Their betrayal was your instruction. Their exploitation was your preparation for a world where only the strategically sophisticated survive. You are no longer playing their game by their rules. You are no longer accepting their framework where your virtue is weakness and their exploitation is strength. You have created new rules where strategic intelligence trumps emotional manipulation, where prepared strength defeats predatory opportunism, where surgical precision neutralizes chaotic aggression. The person you were, the one who believed in the goodness of others despite evidence to the contrary, who practiced unilateral virtue in bilateral relationships, who offered mercy to those who saw mercy as exploitable weakness, that person no longer exists. In their place stands someone who understands that survival requires strength, that strength requires strategy, And that strategy requires the willingness to use others' weaknesses against them with the same precision they used yours against you. You are the storm they should have feared. You are the predator they created through their predation. You are the strategic intelligence they never expected to emerge from their victim. And now they will reap exactly what they have sown. If this transformation resonates with the person you're becoming, if you're ready to stop being prey and start being predator, if you understand that the only protection against weaponized weakness is superior weaponization of weakness, then subscribe to this channel, because we're building an army of the strategically awakened. And this war requires soldiers who understand that mercy is a luxury only the strong can afford. The naive version of you is dead. The strategic version has just been born. Welcome to your new life.